when I first heard about your program, I literally thought, wow, I could just become my own broker for other people. And I literally thought that. I was like, that's why you get so much a bigger ROI on your time and your investment, because all of a sudden you just unlocked a skill where the broker was providing tremendous amount of value, just like Fernando is, right? They know exactly where to place, which lender to place your business with, and they understand your circumstances the best.
What happened with me, dude? So January, we closed 10K. February was 19. March is when we started to see this like rapid growth. It was like over 40K. April was like 50. May, I think, was like down to 39. And then June, we hit 158K, dude. It was the craziest bounce back. It was 30 loans. 30 loans means those are real people that I had to have conversations with and work on their loan file, or my team did, right? Because I was scaling at the time. And that was the most amount of loans we've ever done in a month. From then on, we ended up closing the 130 months. So that was massive in terms of my belief of like, holy, this is really taking off. So then towards the end of the year, which was this past year, December, I realized that of the 130 plus loans that I closed, only about 10 actually needed a license to close the loans. So this is where I started to understand, like, why did I get into this? And I got into it because I wanted to help investors. I had been screwed over by a broker lender, and I said, I'm going to help investors out, and I'm going to change the way that they experience the loan process. And as I was doing that, I noticed that the only way for me to really help investors was for me to make money from the investors. So sometimes I felt like a little bit like, I wish there was a way that I could even help them even more. They're still getting a better trade of the deal. It's so interesting, right? To tie money with mission. Like, I wanted to still help investors, but I didn't necessarily want it to be like every time the investor closes more loans, I make more money. But then I realized in that journey, in reality, for the loans that I was closing, the investors didn't need me. And which was kind of a scary thought, because then I was like, oh my gosh, if they don't need me, then where's my security blanket? So when I had the idea, I was like, man, this is so impactful. If I can teach investors how to close their own loans directly with lenders and not brokers, then they could pay $0, 0% in origination fees. And that's how the name came to be, ZERO Origination Investor.
All right, welcome to another episode of Affordable Housing and Real Estate Investing. Guys, today I have my friend Fernando Corona on the podcast today, and he was one of the early believers in this podcast when I was begging people to come on, and he said, sure, Kat, I'll support you. And to watch this guy's journey, man, I watch him go live, I watch him post his content, and now he's got a new program called ZERO Origination Investor out there and helping investors create more affordable housing by helping them not pay origination fees. So freaking cool. And it's the first time I've heard of a program like this. So I thought I got to bring this guy back on. So Fernando, man, welcome back to the podcast. How are you doing today, man?
What's up, Kent? Thank you, man. Thank you for having me, man. That was an awesome intro. And yes, for everybody who's new to Kent, probably one of the most driven people on a mission that I've met so far in my life, just because, and this is pretty awesome for like any entrepreneur, right? You start off and you feel like there's nothing, and you have to live off of a future that you may envision. And so Kent's one of those guys. Kent just sees a future for affordable housing, accessible for investors, where there's like mutual benefit. And he's trying to just get in and understand, like, how can affordable housing really become simpler?
Man, Fernando, thank you for that, man. I appreciate you so much, and can't wait to meet your wife and tell her how charming you are. Let her know that she found a keeper.
Yeah, she's good. No, she's good on good days when we're not tired from the babies. No, we're good. We're good.
Man, we're just gonna have a lot of fun today, dude. I already know, just with catching up with you right before we hit recording, this is gonna be fun. But I really want to hear what you got going on, because your lending business have blown up. I mean, you went from zero to hundreds of files in a year. So, man, tell us a little bit about, just catch us up to speed, right? How did you go from zero to that amount of volume? It's incredible.
Yeah. Last year we ended up closing over 130 loans. Wow. And it was my first full year in business. So, I mean, I officially started, let's say May of 2023 was when I actually was like, I'm going to do this as a career and a business. And then 2024 is my first full year, and we did over 130 loans. Yeah, it's pretty wild. So how did it start? Man, just really quick, 6 years ago, I left my job. I said there has to be a better way. I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that believe there is a better way to do something to solve a problem. For me, the problem was how do I control my income? How do I control my time? How do I create a lifestyle that I want to live every single day? On Mondays, right now, I get super excited to like wake up on a Monday. I'm the most excited person. So like that was just my goal. 6 years ago, I was like, I want to be so excited to work on a Monday. And so like what's going to make me so excited to work on a Monday? I want to have control of my time, control of my location, control of my income, all that stuff. In a beautiful way, that was the goal. The day-to-day to get there is not pretty. I guess it's the same thing. Like somebody wants like, yeah, I want a six pack. It's like, sweet. Who doesn't? Like, that sounds amazing. But the day-to-day of what is needed to do it, I didn't know. I didn't know what was needed. And so just to share a little bit of the journey, 2022, I don't even know if I've told you this, dude. Unfortunately, I was part of a Ponzi scheme.
No.
And I actually just recently started opening up about this because it's shameful. I felt ashamed. Now I don't, but I felt embarrassed. I felt ashamed. I raised a lot of money, like 400. When you're a nobody, you don't have money. I raised like $400,000, and I was in this. And the hard part is that a Ponzi scheme doesn't start as a Ponzi. It's sometimes, a person who wants to build something and he starts raising capital and one or two or three of the deals doesn't pan out. And he thinks that the fourth and fifth and sixth deal is going to pay back for the first, second, and third. Instead of telling people he lost, the top person just starts to cycle the new money with the old money and pay people out. And then you eventually end up in this like ditch that you can't get out of. And I was just a part of that. And so, it was a massive bummer. It was money I didn't have. It was leveraged money, my parents' money, my wife's parents' money, my brother's money, like people that trusted me and like really, really gave me their trust. So I need to share that story with you because that is when I reached the lowest point. And at the lowest point is an amazing opportunity to rebuild a version of me that isn't built on materialism, status. It's not built on a facade that I have to try to keep because I had lost it. Let's just be clear. Like, this was an easy route. People might think this is like really hard, but this was like a shortcut to building a bunch of wealth. I think I would have done myself a bunch of disservice if I would have achieved a bunch of wealth, but my foundation would have been, I want to achieve wealth because of status, because of materialism, because I want to collect stuff, right? Like I want to show people that I've got all this stuff figured out, right? That's what I was building on top of. When I lost it, all that like vanished with it because you have to go deeper in order to start to climb back up. So that's kind of where it started, dude.
Well, when you were at that low point, I mean, sometimes it's a period of deep reflection. And for folks out there that are listening right now, I mean, just help them understand what the lesson was, right? How can they recognize if they were in a similar scheme or they partook?
You just lost.
Hey, I want to invest. I want to invest. Was it like a real estate property pad split? What was that?
It was a hedge fund. It was a hedge fund, and they were raising capital for businesses, and they were like paying off businesses' debt and then refinancing their high interest debt into low interest debt. So it was something like that where we were supposed to be short-term bridge financing, right? In between high interest capital versus low interest capital. And it seemed cool. The model made sense. And they're legitimate companies that do it today. It's just a matter of like a deal goes south. What do the leaders do? But to answer your question, I'm sure you understand that most people operate from positions of there's a limitation that I place on myself, and it's like a fear of something. And so I had fear of rejection. I had fear of failure, like all the typical fears, right? Like I had fear of, I don't know, just not being seen or not being heard, fear of not being accepted. Like these are all real fears. And I didn't know that they existed. I wasn't looking at them. When I was down at the deepest, darkest dumps, like all those fears come true. All this fear of like, I'm fear of losing money, the fear of being rejected, the fear of letting people down, the fear of feeling like a failure, like I am a failure, like all those thoughts, everything that right now people just have the intangible fear, right, of that possibility happening. Well, when I was down there, it happened. Like I was in the lowest part. So like your question was, what's the lesson? How do I recover from that, right? Or what would I want people to do so they don't have to experience that? It's they have to get themselves down there themselves before the outside world gets them there. And so like an exercise that I do with people, it's like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to put myself out there on content because I'm afraid of what people are going to say. And then I might say like, okay, well, what is the worst thing? What is the worst thing that they will say? And then now they have to look at the because maybe they don't even have to, they even haven't even looked before. And now they have to be like, well, what if they say this? Like what if they say that, that like, who do they think they are, posting content, like you're a nobody. Okay. And what does that mean? And like, well, it means that I won't amount to anything. And I was like, well, like, how did you come up with that? And then it usually goes deeper. Well, because I was bullied as a kid and my parents didn't do this, blah, blah, blah. And it ultimately unravels to a point where they literally say, I'm not enough or something, right? I'm afraid that I won't be enough. And I kind of, spoiler alert. So the sooner that people can get to that position, the lesson is if you can work yourself from your fear to wherever I am, whatever identity is associated to the fear, and you're trying to protect this identity, the faster you get there, the sooner all the invisible walls will start to fall and you'll be able to climb back up. That's the lesson in this.
Man, that is so good.
Yeah, I hope so. I went fast. I took a shortcut. I'm not going to lie to explain that, but I hope
but that's so good because I mean, any one of us, and I think this is why I can tell that you have a good heart. You always ask questions about other folks. You try to do right by them and you take responsibility also. And you don't try to put out a facade like, oh, I'm this guy to close 100 files or I'm this guy to close 1,000 files. You don't care. Your focus is helping others. And that's the reason I bring you back on is because I know the type of person that you are. And you don't try to pretend to be someone that you're not. And man, like it's like when I started this podcast, man, I had this deep fear like, oh, no one's going to listen. But every once in a while, I'm very grateful that I got a wife that said, hey, no matter what, we'll be fine. And that one statement can go so far. And that one response from someone like Fernando to my DM to get him to come on my podcast can go so far. When you're at that low and someone reaches their hands out to you, that could be the best symbol of love, the best symbol of light, whatever that might be. And so I think for people out there that don't understand, especially if you're an entrepreneurship, you listen to this podcast, you're trying to make a difference. Yeah, it's going to be hard. But that's where you got people like Fernando. You got people like me that we're trying to help you not feel so alone. So for now, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you sharing that story. Thank you for being vulnerable, because I think in this world where there's a lot of fake gurus out there trying to present themselves more than they are, I think this sense of authenticity is really important for us to have, especially for our kids.
Yes,
look at
massive. You're right. That is big, dude. So that's huge. And just literally the exercise of going down there was, I love doing it with people because you do get to get vulnerable. So from there, once somebody goes into that, you go down there, go to the darker side, you look within, you hit it right on the nail. It's love. How do you get out? Either somebody extends their hand, which is an expression of love. And so therefore you feel love and you are able to climb out, which is true. I had a network of love, dude. And so I have a saying that I say a network of love is worth more than a network of money. And it's because when that happened to me, it was my brother, my wife, my whole family. I just felt like love. I was not supported by status. I wasn't supported by any of this stuff. I was only supported by love. And I didn't have the love for myself to be able to get myself out. So you're absolutely right, dude. Like I leveraged the love of those around me to as a backstop so that I could not enter massive depression. And then I had to start to love myself. That was huge. I loved myself out of that bottom. And then, so dude, I basically was like, I got nothing to lose. I'm already at the bottom.
Yeah.
Like there's only up from here. And there's no shackles. There's no weight. There's no ceiling. There's none of that exists anymore. I can just be who I need to be, my most powerful self, and show up to be that version of me. And let's see what happens. My bank account was, in the red. I did pay a lot of people off, but that means that I took 30% interest credit cards out. I took personal loans out, right? And I was just like, dude, I got to pay I got to pay everybody back. I got to try to get people right. They should not be carrying this burden for me. So I try to get everybody back. And I said, all right, I'm going to just hustle for a year. And then I said, let's just see what happens. I'm going to stay in the focus. Another thing is that most people think you need 7 income streams to become a millionaire, because I used to think that, because that's typically what I was told. And what I learned is that millionaires build their millions with like 1 or 2 income streams. And then from there, they diversify after they already have their million. Then they put it into other streams. And so that was like novel to me. I figured that out by having some good mentors. And then, so I needed a focus. And then I looked at the fear. I said, well, why do I feel so afraid of like putting my time and effort into one thing and it not working out? And it's because of that fear of failure. But I already knew who that was. It's like, I already know fear of failure. I've already been through that before. So because now I'm aware that it exists, I can still move forward despite of it. And that's how I just started to do that. Boom, 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 over and over. And every action I took was from a position of strength and not from a position of fear. And every time I overcame that fear, even though it was with me side by side, it doesn't always go away. Despite you, like you're right here. Cool. Well, I'm going to keep going. And then it kind of gets a little quieter. And I'm still trucking along and going and taking these bold steps. And December of 2023, I had payroll. I had some employees and I made payroll. My bank account hit negative at the same exact time, dude. And so the last thing I'll share is that month, maybe have you been in a position where like you knew the actions you were taking? It was just a matter of time. You're like, I'm not in the win, but I know that the actions I'm taking every day are going to eventually lead to something awesome. Has that happened to you before? Give me an example. Like, do you have anything come to mind?
Hey, I mean, we've been going through this podcast, and for the first year and a half, I'll be honest with you, man, crickets. Nobody ever really left comments. Nobody really came out and said, hey, this podcast is really helpful. And then it took about a year and a half for things to really click, for people to pay attention, for people to say, wow, this is really helpful. And I don't think people understand, if you're listening to this podcast right now, right, show Fernando some love, DM him and say like, hey, thank you so much for sharing that story, because you have no idea how much this means to us as lower level creators. We're not as famous with millions of followers.
Right.
But that little bit of encouragement is what keeps us going. And it means more to us than you might ever know, more than our words can ever describe it. And when we got featured on Business Insider for the first time, I was like, wow. And then we just got featured again, just to kind of validate that our mission, we're on the right track. We're helping people. We're inspiring people to get into this industry, whether that's through the ZERO Origination investor program that Fernando has, whether that is you becoming a underwriter for a affordable housing lender. There's so many paths for you to help and direct your heart, your energy towards who do you want to help and how do you want to help them. I just chose housing as my way of helping folks. And hopefully that's why you listen to this podcast, because you get to hear all the different avenues, all the different paths that you can take. You don't have to be just a Section 8 single family or a pad split investor for you to be successful. There's so many paths. And this is why I love Fernando coming in, because his story is one of perseverance. It's one of grit, but it's also one of love, because he comes back and he's so willing and open to share all his
100%. Yeah. Thanks, Kent. No, you're absolutely right. So it was December 2023, and I knew I was doing the right thing. And I told my wife, I was like, look, one day I'm going to be speaking internationally, or like people are going to invite me to speak at their masterminds. Remember, this is me looking at my bank account and it's negative. But I told my wife, I was like, one day this is going to happen. Like there's going to be a world where we're not going to be living like month to month. Like our girls, we're going to be traveling with our girls. I'm going to be working and speaking. Our girls are going to see me speak on stage, and like people are going to invite me and all this stuff. Right. And like, I felt like one of those crazy dreamers. And they're like, dude, yeah. All right, cool, Fernando. Yeah, dude, like just figure out your personal life, bro. Like, okay. And January, we ended up, I made like 10K or something. February was like 19K. But I already started to see, I was like, holy crap. And I told my wife, we might have to live month to month, paycheck to paycheck, in a sense, like my loan check to loan check, probably for like 3 more years. I think for 3 years, if we just buckle down for 3 years and just let me grind and hustle, I will figure this out. And my wife was like, yeah, no. But I was very prepared. I was like, mentally, I was prepared to endure for 10 years, endure this suffering and mental suffering, right? That I was going through, not necessarily physical, but it was like this mental suffering of like just going up against the world, punched in the face figuratively. And then you got to get back up and do it again every day and every day and every day and every day. And that's just, I'm sure that's a ton of people, right? And especially you mentioned, dude, your parents, like your mom, you didn't share on the podcast, but your mom telling you like, is it okay if I share what you told me? Yeah. When you said that your mom was saving up $5,000 and then she gets robbed, right when she's got it. And it's like, dude, talk about getting punched in the face. She didn't do anything wrong. And so now it's like, okay, well, how do you bounce back from that? And so that's kind of where what happened with me, dude. So January, we closed 10K. February was 19. March is when we started to see this like rapid growth. It was like, I don't know, did we hit like over 40K? Dude, yeah, March, we're like at over 40K. April was like 50. May, I think, was like down to 39. And then June, we hit 158K, dude. It was the craziest bounce back. It was 30 loans. Usually people understand money before I can say loans. So like that translated to like 30 loans. Okay. But 30 loans means those are real people that I had to have like conversations with and work on their loan file, or my team did, right? Because I was scaling at the time. And that was the most amount of loans we've ever done in a month. From then on, we ended up closing the 130 months. So that was massive in terms of my belief of like, holy, this is really taking off. This is going pretty well. So then towards the end of the year, which was this past year, December, I realized that of the 130 plus loans that I closed, only about 10 actually needed a license to close the loans. So this is where I started to understand, like, why did I get into this? And I got into it because I wanted to help investors. Like I had been screwed over by a broker lender. I had a bad experience. And I said, no, I'm going to help investors out and I'm going to change the way that they experience the loan process. And as I was doing that, I noticed that I kind of felt a little guilty that the only way for me to really help investors was for me to make money from the investors. So sometimes I felt like a little bit like, oh, man, I wish there was a way that I could even help them even more. But like where I feel like they're still getting a better trade of the deal. Maybe I don't have to make but it's so interesting, right? To tie money with mission, because like I wanted to still help investors, but I didn't necessarily want it to be like every time the investor closes more loans, I make more money. Like, I don't know. I felt something wrong inside. I just didn't feel right. But then I realized in that journey that in reality, for the loans that I was closing, the investors didn't need me. And which was kind of a scary thought, because then I was like, oh my gosh, if they don't need me, then like, where's my security blanket? And I just thought, so I went into this like moment of fear again, but I knew what fear looks like. I knew what it feels like. So when I had the idea, I was like, man, this is so impactful. If I can teach investors how to close their own loans directly with lenders and not brokers, then they could pay $0, 0% in origination fees. And that's how the name came to be, Zero Origination Investor.
Okay, that's such a great story, man. And let me just try to build a framework for the audience, right? You talked about how much money you made in 1 month and that equated to 30 loans. Man, let's just stay very basic for 1 second. Sure. What's the difference between a broker and a lender even? I'm not sure if anybody has ever truly tried to explain that. So I would love to kind of hear how you would explain that to like your own friends.
So there's definitely value in brokers. So I'm not saying that there's no value in brokers, and I found that out too. But the difference between a broker and a lender has very limited options of what they can provide an investor. And we're talking about an investor here. We're not talking about like a primary home buyer, somebody who's just buying their own home. We're not talking about that. We're talking about investors that are looking to scale their portfolio. They're using loans like DSCR loans, hard money loans. They're using bank statement loans. They're using asset utilization loans. Like there's these different loan products They're using an Airbnb, like future rents on AirDNA. Like there's these different loans that we use. If it's midterm rental, maybe they're using a short-term lease, 3 months, 6 months. And so these are different loan products that you wouldn't use in the primary world. Okay. So when it comes to those loan products, you can either work directly with the lender or you can work with the broker. So what's the value of a broker? The difference is that a broker has access to many lenders. And it's the broker's responsibility, part of our value, is to help the investor decide which lender we take them to. I've got like 20 top lenders in my Rolodex. Depending on the problem that the investor wants to solve, do they want to do an 80% cash out refi? Do they want to buy 15% down? Do we need to use future AirDNA income? Is it a pad split property? Is it a co-living property? Are there any living rooms or dining rooms anywhere? Like all those are problems based off of what problem we're solving. Somebody's got a 620 credit score. They want to do 70% cash out, like that's a different problem. You got a certain credit score and you're trying to get money out, pay off your hard money and your private money, different problem to solve, right? And so all those require different lenders. If the investor only went to one lender and the lender would deny them, right? Let's say we're solving this problem right now. Somebody wants to do a 75% cash out refi, but they got like a 660 credit score. Majority of lenders will say, hey, you can only go up to 70 LTV, right? We checked it with like 9 lenders and they're maxing out at 70 LTV. He actually came to us because the broker or the lender he was with would go only up to 70 loan to value, 70% of the value of the home. And he was like, hey, I'm looking to get more cash out, but my credit score is low. So now as a broker, we have to go and solve that problem. What lenders do I have access to that are willing to give 75% for the lower credit score on the cash out, right? So that's a broker's responsibility, is to help the investor solve problem. Make sense? The lender is to finance the deal. The broker is connected to multiple lenders, but the investor is capable of going direct to the lenders.
This is so good. That was such a great explanation, man. I love that one. So now, obviously, the whole realm on affordable housing, right? In order for you to create affordable housing, you have to take costs out of the process. And you can take costs from your origination fees, as an example. That can lower your overall initial cash investment. That can lower your overall holding costs, especially if you're rehabbing a property for like the BRRRR strategy, right? All these factors matter, especially if you're trying to pay like $3,000 origination fees on a $100,000 home. That's like 3% right there. It's
just on the fee. But yeah, then you have the closing costs, escrows, and maybe there's a processing fee or an underwriting fee, right? Origination is just what the broker might make. And sometimes the broker and the lender charge origination fees. So you're absolutely right. The fees can stack up, especially for people scaling their portfolio. You're right.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about, make it real for us, right? On a typical loan that you might make, what are investors typically paying in origination fees?
So yeah, we track this. Of our 130 loans that we closed or more, $4,900 was what I made in broker fees. And that's a combination of processing fees and origination fees. That's not including underwriting fee. Or the lenders that I work with, this is part of the value of the Origination Investor Program. The lenders I work with don't charge brokers an origination fee, which is actually really cool. So the lenders will only charge an underwriting fee, maybe like an underwriting fee or like an admin fee or something like that. But let's just say it's $1,500 to $2,000. That's like a fixed cost for the lender. So I just had a student refinance his own loan. At the closing table, he only paid $1,645. It was just the underwriting fee, like nothing else. And he got a 6.75% rate, and it's March 5th, 2025.
Wow.
People be like, what? How's that possible?
Because normally how much would he have paid on that loan with origination fees from broker and origination fees?
He probably saved $4,000 on that.
Wow. $4,000. Just like that.
He probably saved $4,000.
Just from learning from someone like Fernando. That's it.
Yeah. That was it. And he was with another broker already. And he was like, hey, can you just price this out if I were to join? And I was like, yeah, this is what it would look like. And he was like, what? I was like, yeah, dude, it's crazy. So to make it real, yeah, people are saving depending on the loan amount, right? If it's $100,000 loan amount versus a $500,000 loan amount, right? But you can see that as the loan amount gets higher, it becomes even more of a no-brainer. If you're doing lower loan amounts, if your loan amounts are in the 100 to 200K range, well, then yeah, you probably need like 2 loans to get a little bit higher on the fees spectrum. But if once your loan amount hits 200,000 or 300,000, it's not crazy to think that you're paying 2% of the loan amount in fees, or 1.5%. And if you do the math, 1.5% of 200,000 or 2% of it, that's $4,000. And then you got a processing fee on top of that. So that's very quickly you get to $5,000, $4,000, $5,000. So that's where I was like, dang it, I was building relationships just like this, Kent. And if Kent's like, dude, do my refis. And I'm like, cool, I'll do your refis. And you're doing like 5 or 10 refis with me in a year. And I'm like, this is awesome. This is cool. There was a part of me that said this, I'm not really helping Kent to the maximum that I can help him. And so then I say, Kent, if you could do this yourself, would you want to? Hypothetically, let's say you say no, because I have clients say no to me. They're like, no, I want you to do all the work. I don't want to think about it. Just make my life significantly easier. That was actually very refreshing, because that means that I did have value. So brokers do have value. I'm not saying brokers do not have value. I still like, dude, we got like 14 loans in the pipeline right now. And all those people probably know that my coaching program exists, but they're literally like, dude, you do the loan for us. And I'm like, perfect. Now I feel so confident in my conviction that I'm providing a quality level of service that people are willing to pay that amount to me. Now, alternatively, there's the people that say, well, yeah, like, Kent, would you do this? And you say, yeah, if I knew how to do it myself, I would do it myself. And then for those people, I have the second offer, which is where I teach them how to do their own loans, or I teach them how to have their brother do the loans, or I teach them how to have their virtual assistant internationally do the loans. The opportunities become pretty huge for investors.
This is just such entrepreneurship genius right here. And he gets to help people at the same time. This is what's so refreshing about this conversation. One, you felt an urge to help investors more than just saying, hey, let me just sit back. Let me just keep taking in the fees. You were able to get out of that scarcity mindset and into the abundance mindset, and said, hey, what's on the other side of this? If I help people more, somehow the universe finds its way back to me. And
dude, yes.
Now we get to, now this is where things get real. All right, make it real for us, man. So does someone need an LLC or a mortgage loan originator license to do this? Tell us about what the fits to do this.
So, right. That's the biggest game changer, is that in easily 39 states, I'm going to say easily because hands down, 39 states, I can blanketly state you do not need a license to originate DSCR, bank statement, any loan that closes an LLC, hard money loans, fix and flip loans, BRRRR loans, like all that stuff, even commercial loans, SBA loans, mobile home parks. You do not, self-storage facilities, dude, warehouses. You don't need a license to do all this stuff. And it's crazy. It's like wild, dude. Nobody teaches this stuff. And that was it. Like, nobody teaches this stuff. I had to find out by doing all these loans and talking to lenders. And then like, I found out on accident. I literally thought I was doing something illegal. And like, I was scared. My mom was like, like, mijo, my family's Mexican, right? And my mom was like, are you sure you're not doing something illegal? And I was like, Mom, like, they're all like, the lenders know, they know what they're doing. Like, they're paying my business directly. To answer your question, you just need an LLC. That's it. You just need a company.
Just any type of regular LLC? Is like a lending purpose LLC? This sounds too good to be true, man.
That's what I'm telling you, bro. I had a consulting company. It's the same company that I created and failed 5 businesses under. I've had one company for the past 6 years, and I've ran like 6 businesses through it, because I was like, I'm not going to create a new LLC for each new business. If I failed one, then I just create another one. So I just keep creating, a business in the same LLC. And that's it, dude. People just need a regular LLC. They just start getting signed up with the right lenders. Now, the challenge is obviously knowing what lenders to sign up with, depending on what problem.
Let me pause you right there. So you create the LLC and then sign up for your program, and then you walk them through what lenders to sign up for. Is that the next step in your program? Just tell us a little bit more about what the actual steps look like, so that we can be as transparent about the sequencing events for someone to sign up for your program.
Yeah, man. So like right now, there's somebody that is probably listening and needs to do a refinance, and they've got 2 options. And I just had a call with somebody today, and they're like, okay, wait, so I'm doing my loan with this other person. My interest rate's at 8%. I'm looking to get 75% out. And these are the fees I'm paying. And I'm like, cool. Okay. They're like, well, what happens if I join? And I was like, all right, well, we could probably get you signed up. So if you have an LLC already, yes. Okay, we probably get you signed up with a lender today, which takes about 24 hours. So you get signed up with that lender tomorrow, and you can submit your loan tomorrow. So yes, that's really the sequence of events. You have your LLC created, you sign up with lenders, you submit your loan.
That's it.
That's it. And then you go, it's the same exact process. So I'm sure you've been through the process with the broker where you're sending the broker the bank statement. You're sending the broker, the whatever information they're asking for. This time, instead of sending it to a broker, you're sending it just directly to the lender. So you're working directly with the lender, the person who's going to do your financing, the person who's going to give you the money, the person who sends the money to title, right? Like there is no broker middleman connecting you to the lender. You are your own representative. You are your own broker. And I act as the guide. So think of me as the guide to guiding people through that whole process.
Okay, so you're like the sensei in the room, because now all of a sudden the people, they understand their situation best. They know, hey, this is what I need to look for. This is my requirement. I got an X credit score. I need a 75% cash out refi or 80% cash out refi. I need my interest rate to be this amount. And they go to you and say, hey, instead of me trying to figure out from this list of, I don't know how many lenders you have, which lender is the right one so that I can do what Fernando originally did for me. Did I say that back to you correctly?
You did, because now the fear is that, well, I don't know what to do. Like, even if I did sign up with the lender or whatever, like, how do I know which one to go to? Like, when do I do what, when? That fear can still exist, right? And you get this analysis paralysis and you're like, well, this isn't a good, the benefit is that like, I am a broker. I have those answers. And so then it's just like, I just tell people where to go and what buttons to push, which is really, what's the word? Relaxing or like calming for people to know when they join the program that this isn't a set it and forget it. Like, you got to figure this out on your own. This is like, you still have the expertise of a broker who can solve that problem, and your hands being held kind of each step of that way with the people.
Yes. And when I first heard about your program, I literally thought, wow, I could just become my own broker for other people. And I literally thought that. I was like, that's why you get so much a bigger ROI on your time and your investment, because all of a sudden you just unlocked a skill where the broker was providing tremendous amount of value, just like Fernando is, right? They know exactly where to place, with which lender to place your business with, and they understand your circumstances the best. So now you just flip that role and you could become someone like Fernando. And this is so good. So man, I'm so pumped about this conversation. Can you tell, man? I'm so jazzed.
Yeah. So there's one thing
learning from you.
I want to state one thing there too for everyone, because the big question I get asked is like, okay, cool, I can do this for myself. And then people started to ask me, can I do this for other people? It's like, well, can I broker someone else's loan? And the answer is absolutely. Like, that's 100% what that opens you up to if you wanted. Now, I have some investors that are like, Fernando, I buy 10 to 20 deals a year and I just want to do my own loans. Cool. Then I've got other people that are like, hey, I only have one loan for myself, but I have a massive community of investors that I want to tap into. And now it opens up an additional income stream for them, which was an added bonus. That was not my intention. My intention was not to try to create more brokers, but if they can tap into their own networks, create a secondary income stream and help their community. And I'm like, dude, how cool? How cool is that I can give people, like, one girl was like, I don't want to go back to being a nurse. Like, I would rather do this. And so now I'm like, okay, cool. Like, you want to create a life you want to live? Like, let's try to get you there. So that was super empowering to see the smile on people's faces. That's really it too. Like you said, helping people.
Man, that exponential impact, man. That's so freaking, I absolutely love that. And the pervasiveness of the impact that you're able to have on other households. That's so cool. So that's why I want to bring on Fernando onto the podcast today for all of you. For all of you listening right now, I mean, DM this guy, follow him. And so Fernando, let's just talk a little bit about your program. If people wanted to find out more about the program, right? Because I'm sold. I mean, if I have a few properties I want to refi, I mean, I would love to be a part of this. So tell us, what is the cost for your program and how do people get in touch with you to learn more?
So the cost is $6,000. And the way I landed on that was, if somebody's only doing one loan a year, it doesn't make sense. like go do a broker, unless you're going to figure out a way to monetize it, right? Like just go work with somebody else. It's not worth your time if you don't want to learn the skill set. So the reason I priced it at 6,000 was because I wanted people to do, the people that join, you're going to get your return on investment at the second and third loan. You know, you probably pay yourself back in loan 1 or 2. That third, fourth loan that you're doing, it's like you get your money back. So that's kind of the way I looked at it. And then in terms of how to get, like the next step to get access, follow me on Instagram at it's Fernando Corona, or you can shoot me an email, fernando@myremotelender.com. We get you added into like our email list, or you just ask to learn more about the program. We send you over a Google Doc. It's really pretty simple. And then that just outlines what you get from the program. If you're, believe it or not, today, March 5th, Wednesday, I was going to be decreasing the access from 6 months to 4 months. If you guys are listening to this and it's June later this year, or it's a year from now, if you reference this podcast, I will keep you in for the same price and the same and 6 months, just because you deserve it. If you're listening to this podcast with Kent, I want to open that up for you guys. And I don't know where this is going to be in a year. We've got 16 people that have joined since January 1st, and the goal is to be at over 100 this year, by the end of the year. I don't know where the access or the cost is going to be at that point, but yes, for people listening to this, just reference Kent, reference this podcast, and I want to keep that open for them.
Oh, dude, that's so nice of you, man. So I'll make sure I link your Instagram, I link your email down in the show notes below. And this is so good, man. I can't wait to hear from the audience about the value that they get from you. I mean, I know folks that are already in your program, and they have said wonderful things about it so far, and wonderful things about working with you. So it's freaking awesome, man. I love helping folks that are helping. It's so simple. But
thank you, man.
I know that folks out here, especially if you're looking for Section 8 single family, you're looking for the next path, this can make a big difference as you try to scale your business. Like these extra couple of $1,000s can make you stand out amongst all the other investors, because now you look like a little ninja when you're looking for these little hacks to make a deal that much sweeter. So freaking good.
Absolutely. The vision I have is that, well, people literally, the vision I had was I wanted people to like call themselves a zero origination investor. Like, oh yeah, I'm a zero origination investor. And that becomes like a coin term where people know that like they close their own deals with $0 in fees. The other thing I was going to say is like, I know people just, I want to just throw in there. Well, do you think that your listeners are they looking for additional income streams, or are they typically looking to save, or maybe both?
Both.
What have you found?
Absolutely
both. Yeah. The only other thing I'll say is even when raising capital and doing deals, there are when I was raising capital for real estate, and by the way, raising for capital for real estate went well. That was one of the things that went well for me. I wasn't making money off of any active income from that. And it became very exhausting. I was only making money from passive income, but I would go 5 months of like acquisition, rehab, refi, coordinating everything. And I'm just like doing all this. It felt like free work. I was building wealth, sure, but like I needed to eat. And so what I recommend to anybody who might be doing that is like, if you're doing the acquisition, the deal finding, you should probably tack on a small acquisition fee, 100%. That's active income. And if you learn this skill where you start doing the loans as well, maybe you can tack on a small broker percentage fee, right? And then on the refi, you can do a small one too. You're still giving them a discount to your own fund or to your own private money lender, your own partner. You're just paying yourself a little bit in these little instances so that you can just eat. Because I had to push pause on a lot of my raising capital and doing deals because I was like, man, it didn't click for me on how I could turn it into active income and then I got into loans. That became my active income stream.
Man, that's such a great nugget right there, man. Because everybody on social media is like, oh, I gotta get 5,000 doors, and I can just sit on the beach and not do anything. And so everybody forgets about active income. You gotta make money to put food on the table, to pay your rents, pay your bills. And I love how you put acquisition fees and broker fees, because you have to understand these are normal services that other people, regardless if they're partnering with you or investing with you, are going to pay anyways. Right. But now you're looking out on behalf of the partnership in the partnership's best interest, because you might be part of the partnership as well. And who better than you with the relationships that Fernando has curated with all his lenders to find the best option for yourself. I mean, it just seems like such a great fit. I love it, man. Hey, man, I'm just so grateful you came onto the podcast today. I'm so grateful that you came on and shared your story. And now you have created a new solution for so many people to take advantage of. Man, I cannot wait to have you back on the podcast eventually, man. This is going to be so good to watch your journey.
That'll be good. Yes. A year from now, let's see where things are. And dude, likewise, seeing your growth has been super, super inspirational. So thank you, Kent, for having me on, man. This has been awesome.
All right, guys, make sure you follow Fernando and leave a 5-star review for the podcast if you can, guys. I mean, we've gotten some hate before because we're focused on affordable housing, and sometimes people just don't understand what affordable housing is. So somehow they just default to 1-star reviews. But if you found this impactful and you think somebody else can benefit from this podcast, just share this podcast with just one friend. I really appreciate you, and I think they're going to appreciate you sharing the information that Fernando has shared. Okay, so this is going to be so good.
Thanks, Kent. Thanks, guys.
All right.
See you, everybody.
And we are out.